Hey everybody, and welcome to Planet Zoo. This will be my first Planet Zoo time-lapse, so it's kind of a special moment. But at the same time, this is a very simple video and quite short if you compare it to my usual videos. You're probably wondering why this is less than 10 minutes. I mean, how am I gonna make any money off of mid-roll ads if I'm not even reaching 10 minutes? And besides, there's not too much that you can do in 10 minutes. But this is really the kind of content that I want to try and make for the Planet Zoo beta, given the fact that the beta will only last for 2 weeks, and after that there will be somewhat of a radio silence where we can't play the game anymore. So whatever I do, I want to keep my projects quite short and simple for the beta, just to explore the pieces, see what's possible in the game. And of course also trying to make some small zoo elements. Maybe I'll make a small 2 or 3 parter series. I'm just gonna have to see what I feel like doing, but whatever I'm going to do, I want to keep everything quite simple and short, just to make sure that I don't run out of time until the end of the beta. And besides, we might lose everything that we do now when the full game comes out. Frontier isn't sure whether they're gonna be able to support blueprints coming out in the beta in the full game. So I'm gonna have to build everything with the assumption that I won't be able to save it and I'm gonna lose it at some point. So for that reason, I just want to feel a bit more free to just kind of do whatever I feel like doing in the spur of the moment. And in this case, that was a Japanese tea house. So I'm building a Japanese tea house, and that's basically it. Won't be adding anything around it really, or I won't be building on it in any way. Now, I should probably talk a little bit about this tea house, what it is and why I decided to build a Japanese tea house. Well, for one, I guess at this point I'm a little bit infamous for building something Japanese in every simulation game I come across. And I tried to restrain myself when it comes to Planet Zoo, but in the end, as you can see, it only took 1 day for me to build something Japanese. So we're already here, we got this over with, and now that the Japanese theme is all done, I guess I can move on to other ideas. So partly it's just because I really wanted to do it. Partly it's also because I realized that it's doable because, well, when the game came out and when I was doing my live stream for a few hours just recording some of my first gameplay, I didn't realize that in the franchise mode, which I'm currently in, you can actually research scenery pieces and pretty much get all of the scenery pieces that are available in the beta. So even though we don't have a sandbox mode in the beta, this is as close to a sandbox mode as you can get, I think. Given the fact that we can get all of the pieces and it's a completely flat map with some money, even though it's very limited, so I have to watch out regarding my budget. It's somewhat of a sandbox mode, so I think that works alright. And when I was looking at the pieces that I researched, specifically the Indian ones actually, because that's where I got the tile roofs from that you can see at the top here, I realized that Japanese architecture would probably be doable. And so even though it's not in the game, at least not at the moment, I have no idea about full release, although it would be really cool to see an East Asian wall pack of some sort. I figured for now it's probably possible. And especially the type of building which I'm building here, which is, if I pronounce it correctly, a chashitsu, which is a traditional tea house. And these buildings tend to be quite subdued, very simple. Well, not necessarily simple, but not overly detailed or, well, with ridiculous curved Asian roofs as they are stereotypically known for, or any detailing or even painted elements. Everything is quite simple, using just natural elements and textures, and a lot comes down to how you place the details rather than just how much you place down, and the general composition of the building. At the end of the day, they are typically very simple buildings just for tea ceremonies, with a lot of shoji walls that you can move around. Shoji being this combination of Japanese paper and bamboo, making these grid-like patterns of windows, walls and doors that you can move around on the floor to rearrange the layouts of buildings. Because in a lot of traditional Japanese architecture, you don't really have these solid walls that you see in Western architecture. Buildings are much more flexible, much more open, and you can move a lot of the walls around, and especially on a good day open the entire buildings. That's something that should realistically also be possible for the building which I'm building right now. Hence why I am making it look the way that I am right now, and making some of these shoji screens using stucco pieces and wooden beams, which is not the best solution to try and make these, but I think especially from a distance it looks convincing enough. Now I will be closing this entire building just because I don't want to deal with interiors or anything. That would be really difficult given the fact that the interior is kind of a warbled mess of different wooden posts all bumbling into each other, just because I needed them like that to make the exterior, so I'm just closing the whole building off. But I'm trying to make it look as though we have all of these walls and doors and windows that you can actually move around and rearrange the building. And typically in real life, I think you find a lot of these buildings in Japanese gardens as well, be it in a tea garden, which is typically just a single path winding through a garden toward a tea house, or one of these lake-style gardens where you have a path walking around the lake, and you'll often find a tea house somewhere alongside the lake, or even in the middle of the lake in some cases. And yeah, it's this kind of setting where I think you'll find a lot of these types of buildings. So I was thinking about building a Japanese garden around it to make it look even more like it's in a context that you'll usually find it in real life. But given the fact that this franchise mode map is in the Asian grassland biome, and we don't really have any green grass that looks convincingly like it could be somewhere in Japan, I didn't want to build an entire garden around it. I'll be placing down a few rocks and some foliage that I think looks Japanese-ish, but that's really just about it. I don't think I can push it much further than that. And as you can see at this point, the building is pretty much already finished, and the setup is very simple. We've got a front here with that roof overhanging a bit more than the rest of the building, but you can actually walk around the entire building on this slightly raised wooden walkway. I am super glad actually for the fact that we have these wooden floors that are very thin. A lot of the wooden floor pieces in Planet Coaster that are on the grid are very thick, and in this case having this thin wooden floor actually helps a lot in making this building much more realistic. I think otherwise I would have been forced to make these floors out of some kind of scenery piece, and that would have been a lot more difficult. Not to mention that I'm trying to keep the piece count as low as possible for this building, because I wanted to upload it on the workshop as a blueprint, so it shouldn't be too expensive to be affordable. And also, I'm very limited in terms of my budget, so if I start making roofs out of wooden corbels like I did in Planet Coaster, I'm gonna run out of budget real quick. So I have to do these things kind of by being smart about the placement of scenery, and not necessarily by putting a bunch of different scenery elements together and shaping a different element with it. So anyway, this is the small, very minor Japanese garden-ish environment, I guess, that I was building around the building. It's not exactly a great Japanese garden, and I have to say it's also lacking a lot of typical foliage, although I am very glad that we got the cherry blossom tree in the game, which is absolutely beautiful. It's the pink blossom tree up there on the top right, and it looks really amazing. I love that one, probably going to use that one a bit more often. But yeah, the rest is just some shrubs that I sunk into the ground, some simple rock work to kind of symbolize the mountains, and some Scots pines that I'm trying to imitate Japanese pine trees with. And with that said, that is the entire build. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you're interested in checking this build out, you can find it on the Steam Workshop. I'll leave a link down in the description, and I hope to see you guys in the next Planet Zoo video. Bye guys!